Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 38. I'm Paul Shaughnessy. Producer Matt, is on the sticks, and hitter of a PRP, Cody Saftic, on the line after I motivated him last week.
Yeah.
I said, I don't bet the parlays anymore. I hit my own little parlay. It was a great little night all the way around. But sincerely, I saw people throwing around that there may be a shag curse. Nobody wants me touching the Cody bets anymore. That if I'm on them, they go sour. So they may be onto something there. It turned out to be a wicked night for a lot of people in the industry. Really felt like a community win basically around it. But like PRP 200-1, like you must have cost some sports books like millions of dollars. So kudos to you.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're always happy to win any type of money, but we're always trying to get that first leg. If we make that second leg, that's our little bit of profit. If we can hit a third leg, that's the aim. But you always want to hit that PRP. And in most cases, you've got a 12-fight card, and there's always somebody that goes along and shits in your apple pie. In this case, 13 fights. The key was nobody shit in the apple pie. Actually, everybody did what they were supposed to do. I'd like to quickly thank so Jonathan Pierce actually just kept going, right? He did what he had to do. Semmelsberger 2 punches him, no problem there. Maximum fight, I would like to thank the judges for getting that one right. That's our first good bounce, right? Mm-hmm. You need the good bounces. That's our first good bounce. Jalen Turner walked right through him, right? Taylor Santos walked right through her. Chris Daukaus walked right through Shamil Abdurakhimov. Dan Hooker walked right through Hakparas. Merab Dvalishvili's bounce number 2, right? You got Mark Smith fucking repping that thing? I should have said it again. Well, I know where I said it. I'm going to put a bleep on that. Mark Smith, my God. If he's repping this thing, he maybe stops it, but Merab comes back. That's our second bounce, man. We survived some serious adversity there. Whether Marlon does it all the time, serious adversity, right? Curtis Blades, he eats a knee straight to the face, Paul. Instantly, his eye swells shut. I'm like, why do I bet Curtis Blades? But he comes through. Bounce number 3, flying knee connected a little bit lower. He's unconscious. Robbie Lawler, that's not really a bounce. That was a good overall go. Alexander Volkanovski escaping the guillotine choke. So at the very bare minimum, we got 3 or 4 bounces that went our way. If he taps from that guillotine, if Curtis Blades, that knee smokes him in the chin and KOs him, if Merab topples over and a terrible ref jumps in to stomp it, if the judges say, oh, you know what, Brunridge kicked his leg in the first round and score the first round for Brunridge, yeah, then you don't get the BRP. So on bad weeks, you always blame it on something, some unforeseen circumstance, but it's all just getting the right bounces, and we happen to get them here. And, I'm the kind of guy that's going to tell you, let's go hit another PRP. And that's what I intend to do here. But we're going to need the bounces. That's the fair statement I could say. There's going to be underdogs barking on this card, this one especially, because it looks like a dogger pass type card in a lot of these spots. But we got to get the right combination, Paul. And yeah. I know, yes, of the 1 week where you decided to bail off parlays.
I've been off for a bit. I've been off for a bit. In fairness, I just bet my own. Sure. I just bet my own stuff.
And you're doing
every
good.
Single week, and I'm doing good. But I'm happy for everyone to hit it. But I want to take a little bit of credit for I lit a firecracker under your ass, and then you had to show up with a 13 pick PRP last week. So, for all the people saying shag curse, you should really be thanking me. That's all I'm saying. For getting Cody, it's hard to get up in the morning when you're sleeping in silk sheets. And Cody maybe was sleeping in silk sheets. I put a little bit of doubt into him. Look what happens. Good things for all people around. I'm obviously just joking. I'm happy for everyone that cashed. I cashed, and plenty of good people out in the community cashed. So why don't we cash on this offering, which starts with Thiago Santos taking on Johnny Walker, -160 Santos, +140 Walker. What's your take here, Code?
Yeah, I mean, you got flash and Johnny Walker versus more substance in Thiago Santos. But the problem is it's going to be very difficult getting a read either side because Thiago Santos isn't the guy that we've grown to love over time, right? The murderous power punching middleweight who moves up to 205 and has a tremendous amount of success, challenges for a world title. One judge scores him said fight. in a world title fight against John Jones, losing an ultimate split decision. But the way he shredded up both of his knees in that fight, you just knew afterwards that it was like big time damage sustained there. Multiple knee surgeries on both sides. He's already in his mid 30s at that point. He comes back against Glover Teixeira, and you and I, because we got this Glover thing, we're like, you know what? The dude's knees are shot to bits. He's in his mid 30s. He's not known to have a great cardio or a great ground game. Why not take a feeler out there on Glover Teixeira? So Santos is a minus 240 favorite. He didn't look the same at all. Mind you, he almost knocked out Glover in the first round. Once Glover got him down, dude, he was helpless. Now, mind you, Santos is a BJJ black belt, but there are levels to this, and him off his back, he's not creating scrambles. He's not throwing up submissions. He's not creating space and trying to get back up to his feet. He was very much a fish out of water there. And again, he actually almost knocked out Glover in the third round, and then gets taken down. You see spotty cardio, just not there anymore. The Alexander Rakic fight, everyone assumed, okay, this would be his second fight back from the knee surgery. He's going to look better in this spot. To a certain extent, maybe he did look better, but he looked tired and he looked slow and he looked sluggish. And this is no longer an elite level 205er. This is a guy that's going to be a scary proposition for anybody because he still does hit hard. He still does have that giant hammer tattooed on his chest. He is still built and deezed up, and he's still at American Top Team. No doubt he's going to be ready. He's just not the same guy anymore. The cool thing is that you can look at a whole body of work and be like, oh yeah, he has impressed me multiple times over. He's got the back class. Johnny Walker, it's like quite the opposite. Like when he wins, it's one of these spectacular first round finishes. When he doesn't win, it's like you extend him out. And that's kind of the issue. He's got the flash all day long. I just don't know that he's going to be able to fight multiple rounds. And this one being scheduled as a 5-rounder got me really nervous. I had initially contemplated potentially a dogger pass type situation here. Maybe take a feeler out on Johnny Walker, being that he's 29 years old, so he's 8 years younger. He is seemingly still making improvements fight to fight. But again, man, you look at his track record, right? His beats Khalil Roundtree, first round knockout. Justin Ledet, 15-second knockout. Misha Cirkunov, 36-second knockout, right? Corey Anderson, of all people, just pushes him backwards and knocks him out. So his chin's not all that good, and he doesn't fight particularly well off his back foot. The Nikita Krylov fight, Nikita Krylov out-wrestled him, easily out-wrestled him for 15 minutes, in which Johnny Walker was completely gassed out after the first 4 minutes. And then the Ryan Spann fight, well, wouldn't you know it, he gets a first-round knockout again. So is it possible that he knocks out Thiago Santos in the first round? Absolutely. Thiago Santos has been knocked out twice in the first round in the UFC. Gegard Mousasi did it, Dave Branch did it, and Vicente Luque, who's now a welterweight, did it on the Brazilian regional scene. So you can chin check him in the first. But no man's done it in like 5 years. He's fought in better guys than Johnny Walker, and he is durable enough. So I think it's going to be key for him to survive that first round and then start the pressure and eventually, hopefully, tire Walker out, put him in a compromising situation, land something of note and put him away. Yeah, he's been slower. Yeah, his volume hasn't been as good as we'd like to see, but I got to think that in a 5-round fight, even if he drops the first 2 rounds, he can just drag this thing into some later water. The last thing I'll say, and then we'll completely move on from the subject, is the Alexander Rakic fight. Most people remember just like, oh man, he looked terrible in that fight and the knees and this and that, all the things I just mentioned. It's important to note in the Rakic fight, he actually does outstrike Alexander Rakic 49-36 over the course of 15 minutes. He actually throws more significant strikes all around, more total strikes all around, outlands them in both numbers. First round's close, but it's Rakic's round. Second round is all Rakic. The third round, Thiago Santos outlands him 23-7, wins the third round on 2 judges' scorecards. That's the most strikes he landed the entire fight. And at 39 thrown, it's the most strikes he's thrown the entire fight in the third round. So Santos can keep going and can keep getting a little bit of steam and start landing a little bit. And when Johnny Walker is the polar opposite, when his numbers fall right off, I would expect Santos to catch him second, third, fourth round, if anything. But honestly, dude, talk about a explosive main event that could definitely go either way and is going to be greasy for whoever you end up picking. But the official pick will be Thiago Santos based on the superior experience and durability.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that, really. I will say Thiago Santos has some baby swag because Yana Kunitskaya, I believe, is with child right now. So, I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. That's more of a golf thing that they say on the Pat Mayo shows. Yeah, it's Johnny Walker could be very, very dangerous early. I've never seen him go 5 rounds. And you talked about the Henrique da Silva fight on Dana White Contender Series Brazil, where he was looking pretty good early. And then round 3, he started to slow down significantly. I don't think this guy has 5-round cardio. I'm sure he's worked on it. But Thiago Santos, and to add on to what you were saying about his durability, I think for him to get, like, David Branch knocked him out. And David Branch isn't exactly some sort of murderous power puncher, but I think for Thiago Santos to get to 185 pounds was sucking the life out of him. I think at 205, he's kind of proved time and time again that the cardio the chin holds up quite a bit better at this level. And yeah, Walker's grappling doesn't concern me too much. I haven't seen too much from him to lead me to believe that he's going to be able to do what Glover Teixeira was able to do to him. It could get very, very dicey early. That's why I don't have a bet on Thiago Santos right now. But you may be able to catch something in live markets as long as Johnny Walker doesn't knock Santos's head off in the first 5 minutes or so. Maybe after round 1, have a look to see if Thiago Santos is still standing and looks like he's got something left in the tank. But yeah, Santos for me as well. Moving on down, we got Kevin Holland taking on Kyle Daukaus. Kevin Holland, a minus 160 favorite. Daukaus can be had for plus 140. I mean, I made the mistake. Kevin Holland versus Jacare Souza. Now, I guess at that point, it was the end of Jacare Souza's career. But I definitely overlooked the fact that Kevin Holland is a black belt in BJJ. He's very bad. Like his takedown defense, pretty horrible. But he knows what to do while he's down there. So I'm concerned with Daukaus because I think on the feet, I don't think anybody's really going to deny that Kevin Holland should have some advantages there. Nice long, clean punches, strikes at range. On the ground, his takedown defense is bad, but Daukaus isn't exactly some sort of world-class wrestler. I'm leaning towards Kevin Holland here. I just don't really like the minus 160 price tag attached to it. What's your take here, though?
Yeah, I can't go for Kevin Holland as a favorite, like you mentioned. And it's not that I don't think that he could potentially come out and win this fight, because I definitely think he could come out and win this fight. It's that with a guy that can't wrestle, he's shown us no ability to keep the fight standing. And beyond all that, people keep talking about takedown defense is his biggest issue. Takedown defense is his biggest issue. I'll tell you his biggest issue is that he's not he plays around too much, man. His head ain't in the game. Yeah. And you'll see these fights. He'll go back to his corner and they're just like, Kevin, man, come on. He's just like, oh, man, I'm too strong. It's Kevin, man, stuff the takedown, back away, dude. They're trying to give him advice and you can just see he's mentally checked out. He's more worried about talking smack in there. He's talking stuff to the Khabib cage side. You've seen him routinely in the Vettori fight. He's grounded, and he's basically just telling Vettori, oh, you got me. It's like, no, fight him, man. This is a fight. Stop just accepting this stuff. That, to me, is just way too frustrating. And so now I get thinking, you know what? Is it possible that this guy was just a flash in the pan, right? He beats Anthony Hernandez. Oh, dude, he beat him in 39 seconds. Smoke's running through him. Joaquin Buckley, who he knocks out. Both those guys aren't exactly on great runs right now. I know Buckley just won one. The Darren Stewart fight, split decision. He gets out grappled by Darren Stewart in that spot. True. He gasses out and gets taken down by him and loses the third round. Not a good looking spot. But then he gets Charlie Ontiveros. So it's good. Yeah, and he looks great in these layups. So now he's got Jacare Souza, who's in his 40s and is just a legend, great on the ground. And I don't think anybody, just like you mentioned, we were both on Jacare that night. I don't think anybody saw that. Jacare got 2 takedowns. They're easy money takedowns, right? And this is the exact spot Jacare flourishes in. Only, oh shit, Kevin Holland recently just got a black belt under Travis Lutter, and he's throwing up hammer fists from the bottom. And everything that's hitting Jacare is just scrambling his head. So all of a sudden he's out while on top. And that's what kind of causes his ground game to go to shit. As you've seen from Jacare subsequent to that fight, he is done, right? The beginning of the end was that fight. And now it appears that it is the end. Now you give him a step up in competition and guys that can grapple. So Derek Brunson gets the 6 takedowns, but that's because once Brunson would get the takedowns, Holland had an inability to get up. Marvin Vettori had shown very little wrestling on paper going into that fight, and yet scores 11 takedowns absolutely at will. And both times you've got Kevin Holland making excuses and talking and just heads out of the game. My concern here with Kyle Daukaus is no, he's not as good as a wrestler as those aforementioned guys, but so far in his UFC career, in Dana White's Contender Series, he fights Michael Lombardo, who's out of American Top Team, and wrestled collegiately. He takes him down twice. Brandon Allen, his debut in the UFC, Brandon Allen, pretty tough guy, good grappler as well. He takes him down 3 times. Dustin Stofus kind of seems like a bum, but Dustin Stofus did wrestle out of Pennsylvania before moving to Germany, and he takes 2 takedowns on him. Now he runs into Phil Hawes. Well, shit. Phil Hawes won a junior college national title at 197 pounds with Iowa Central, same college as John Jones, same college as Colby Covington, and then actually transferred after his junior college national title victory over to University of Iowa, which is a D1 program, and wrestled out of there. So am I surprised that Kyle Daukaus couldn't take down him? No. Fair. He ran into a stocky wrestler. But in his 2 UFC fights prior and his Contender Series fights, he is getting these fights to the ground. I would imagine he probably does take Kevin Holland down. And once they get to the ground, they're both black belts. So which one's better? The one under, the Martinez BJJ guy, Daukaus, who's training with his brother, another BJJ black belt, who's coming off a huge win over the weekend over Abdurakhimov. They've likely been trained together. Very motivating seeing that. Or the flip side of that, Kevin Holland, who's got a black belt under Travis Lutter. For the OG fans, you'll know him as the Michael Jordan of jiu-jitsu. And just hasn't really used it, right? He's used it in one fight to punch up Jacare, and then since then he just gets grounded and can't do shit. Like his frame's too long in order for him to generate space and create a scramble. So all he can do is throw up triangles and arm bars. And dog, it's 2021 and the UFC's top 15 to top 20. Like triangles and arm bars aren't going to work on these guys anymore. Like you got to get up. Doesn't seem like he can get up. So to be honest, dude, this is a dogger pass. I know I considered the main event to be a potential dogger pass, but I'm taking Thiago Santos. This is a dogger pass. And if you're going to give me a plus money sign on Daukaus, I'm going to take it.
The only scary thing I will say, maybe it's not even that scary, in the year 2021, apparently Johnny Hendricks will be in the corner of Kevin Holland. But like Kevin Holland's he's been all over the place though. It's like he was at AKA, I don't know what, because I remember there was like a picture that surfaced of him at Instagram or on Instagram, like cleaning up the mats and stuff there, but like it didn't seem to work out there. He's obviously from Texas, so that makes more sense to have like Johnny Hendricks around. But it's like anything. It's just like, well, how quickly can you put those skills to work? And I'm sure he's working on his wrestling, but it's so far behind seemingly most top 15-ish guys in this division that you know what? I'm definitely not touching Holland. You laid a pretty good case. Don't bet a guy who, especially in a 3-round fight on top of that, where and Daukaus is super, super durable. It's just like he really only needs maybe 2 or 3 takedowns over the course of the first 2 rounds and hold on for dear life if it came down to it. Because Holland hasn't really shown much of an ability to get back to his feet. And Daukaus' BJJ should be good enough not to get caught in anything silly. So, yeah, dogger pass. But we'll see the weigh-ins. Maybe I feel better about one of the sides here as the week goes on. Moving on down, we've got a firecracker of a fight. Niko Price taking on Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Minus 165 Price, plus 145 Oliveira. I feel almost like this is kind of like a fight that, I don't know. Do you think the UFC would be releasing either one of these guys? They've always, showed up to work, put on exciting fights, but with all these Contender Series fights going on, you worry that, Niko Price coming off of 2 straight losses, or what? He's got the no contest against Donald Cerrone, 2 straight losses, 1 to Pereira, 1 to Vicente Luque, and then Alex Cowboy. He's always had trouble on the scale. He's coming off of 2 straight losses. It could be a pink slip fight. I hope it's not a pink slip fight because I love, regardless of, the issues that they have in their skill sets. I always love watching both of these guys fight. Alex Cowboy Oliveira, the biggest concern for me here is the cardio. If he gets dragged into a firefight with Niko Price and he doesn't knock out Niko Price, I think Niko Price is going to be the guy with a lot more in the tank late in this fight. So I would have to go with Niko Price in this spot, even though it's minus 165. What's your take?
I'm actually surprised it's only minus 165 because I know what you're saying. Both guys got their backs up against the wall. They're coming off losses, but Niko Price is competitive in his losses, whereas Cowboy Oliveira does not look like the same guy. They're only 33 years old now. I wouldn't consider him over the hill, but he's fighting like he's very much over the hill. Shavkat Rakhmonov turned out to be an absolute stud, but he just blew right through him, right? And then the Randy Brown fight his last time out, a one-arm rear naked choke. Again, first round, he's getting submitted now easily. He's supposed to have good grappling. They're walking right through him. When he was at 155 pounds, he was a problem because he was so big. From a rodeo, a bull rider. Like he gets a hold of you, he's a serious problem. Now at 170, it's like The weight cuts are still bad for him. He shows up lethargic. He's slower. He's not looking to let his hands go. He very much screams one-round fighter. And if you can extend him over and put any type of pressure on him, he starts to fall apart for sure. And I would expect Niko Price to do that. This one, you're talking about baby swag. You've got one guy in Alex Oliveira who's got 9 kids taking on Niko Price, who just announced number 6 on the way. We got 15 babies to feed in this fight, Paul. God damn. My God. Anyways, I think Niko's got it.
There's probably more babies out there that just aren't accounted for.
I don't want to say rude saying this, but I'm firm. I'm a firm believer Niko Price has got a 6th baby on the way. Alex Oliveira, I couldn't tell you. 17, 18 babies on the way. I don't know. Remember that one time he pulled out of a fight because it was like one of the mamas was looking for child support. He was like hiding in Brazil.
It's the only thing he's ever pulled out of.
Yeah, exactly. I seen that joke with Niko Price. They're like, you don't pull out of fights, you don't pull out of his wife. It's like, okay, that's a little extreme, but point taken, because it is a fair point. Honestly, what I saw from Niko Price's last time out against Michel Pereira, yeah, he still got the goods. I mean, keep in consideration that 3-fight losing streak you're talking about, or 3-fight winless streak. Vicente Luque, and he extended him, man. That was an excellent fight. Niko was on full display. Unfortunately, Vicente Luque is just an absolute stud. He didn't get the victory. He got stopped very late on an eye injury. The Donald Cerrone fight, he looked flat for sure. But he openly admitted, I'm fighting my hero, man. And he did win the fight. Only marijuana positive, lights that one up in smoke, and he loses.
Well, it was a majority draw because he eye poke, lost a point.
Yeah, right. But I think
he got his ass.
He should have.
He got his ass whooped in round 3, though.
Yeah, and then you get the Michel Pereira fight where the first round he gets annihilated in the first round, right? And then the second round he's fighting better. He ends up on the ground, and Michel Pereira throws like a backflip. The kick actually does land on the head. Ref doesn't do anything about it, and then he spends right into a full mount. So he spends 3 minutes with Pereira on full mount, escapes, batters him for the last 2 minutes, not enough to persuade the judges, but an excellent comeback in that second. And then in the third round, this close to a stoppage. He's all over Pereira. Pereira's gassed out. Niko's moving forward. Solid outing. Unfortunately, the judges gave that 2-1. Very close fight. Could have gone different way. And who knows, that was an illegal backflip kick to the head. But it's not sour grapes. It's just those are close competitive fights. He's still in them. And so this fight with Cowboy Oliveira is probably going to be way too close in that first. And then beyond that, the second and the third round, I would expect Niko Price to start putting the volume together, stuff the takedowns, keep it standing, wear on this guy, and then pull it through. Is it the most confident player on the card? No, because Niko Price tends to fight to his opponent's level. When he fights elite level guys, Vicente Luque, and to a large extent, I guess, Michel Pereira, some of the good guys, he shows up. He shows up ready to go. When he fights some of these sloppier guys, he's willing to engage them in that brawl. It's that Alex Oliveira, to me, just doesn't got the juice in the tank anymore. So, minus 165, I got to go with Niko Price.
All right, Krzysztof Jotko, minus 150, takes on Misha Cirkunov, plus 130, middleweight fight. Surprised to see Misha making the trek all the way down from 205, but this is probably like his last hurrah. Like, you kind of realize that the guy's at 205, a little bit too big for him. The chin has always been a massive, massive issue for Misha Cirkunov. I wouldn't suggest anybody throwing too much on this fight until you see weigh-in, see how Misha looks on the scales at 185 pounds. In theory, though, like Krzysztof Jotko, not exactly like a murderous power puncher, not exactly a guy who I think would shut off Misha Cirkunov's lights with one shot. So I think the matchmaking is pretty good for Misha in this spot. I got to see him on the scales, but I'm leaning towards a dog or pass here because I think Jotko's more of a point fighter, staying at range, and Misha at 205 was like muscling dudes around, at least early in the fight until he starts gassing off. If he carries that type of strength to 185 pounds, there could be some big problems. The chin, I think, is always going to be a concern. But for me right now, I think it's dog or pass, Misha Cirkunov. I got to see the weigh-ins before I make any wagers on this one, though.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. I'd love to see the scales because Misha at 185, I mean, that's where he should be, in my opinion. I just don't know at this stage in his career or his athletic life if he's going to be able to make 185, at least not comfortably. I know Misha, like in real life, and he's got the frame of a middleweight. The problem is he's jacked. He's in excellent shape. He carries a lot of muscle on him, and, he fights at 205. he was able to lean out. And we see with Ion Cutelaba, right? Cutelaba was another one of these guys that's bulky, right? Is he a big 205er? No, but he's a bulky 205er. He goes out there, he's got a 1 round of cardio. Then in his last fight, I know you and I had spoken about it. It's like, dude, this guy's leaned out. You can see he's dropped a lot of that bulky muscle, and he's just like a lot leaner, more of an athlete. He's working on a lot more explosive work exercises and working on his cardio. And the guy that showed up against Devin Clark was in many ways not the Ion Cutelaba that we remember. I mean, dude won a decision, and that in itself shows you how much of an Ion Cutelaba it just was not. It was pretty crazy, but that's leaning in. If Misha was to lean himself out and be able to fight for a couple of rounds, I've always said at 205, he's one of the better grapplers in the division. At middleweight, it's going to be the same case. If he gets you to the ground, he's got an arsenal of submissions. He's got, and it's very versatile as well. He can grab your neck. He can get an arm. He can take your back, whatever. I mean, you even seen that Alex Nicholson, remember the neck crank, right? And he just breaks his jaw, just pop, Nicholson taps. It's like he doesn't even need to get him to the chin. He's very strong. He's an extremely good grappler. Sam Zakula black belt. And he's at it full time out of Las Vegas right now. So I know he's going to be in good shape. Of course, you got to make sure he makes the weight. The issue is his last 7 fights in the UFC have ended inside of the first round. And he's a 1-round guy. He's a 1-round guy in victory. He's a 1-round guy in defeat, right? As much as we can talk day and night about how good his grappling is, Glover Teixeira romped him on the ground. Volkan Oezdemir knocked him out in 28 seconds. Johnny Walker knocked him out in 36 seconds. And Ryan Spann knocked him out in 1 minute and 11. All 3 of those times he got knocked out by those guys, it was almost like the first shot glances him and he's wobbly. His striking's always been very stiff and robotic. It's hard to gauge how much he could throw over the course of 15 minutes because all of his fights are ending inside of 1. But he's not a volume guy. He's a come out, throw 2 big hooks, throw a big head kick, try to shoot in and get this fight to the ground. With Jotko, meanwhile, he's fighting 15 minutes all the time. And as far as grappling goes, he did get submitted by Magnus Sedenblad back in the day, like years ago.
Yeah,
second
I'm sure
fight
he's
in the
improved
UFC.
since then.
But yeah, he's another one of these guys that's full-time at an American top team, training with some of the best guys in the game, making rapid improvements. And a couple fights after he lost to Sedenblad, he fought Talis Laitis. And he spent a lot of time with Talis Laitis on top of him on the ground. Talis Laitis can do nothing to him. He eventually got back up and he eventually forced a stoppage victory to pull the to get the win over Talis. So I do think he's improved his grappling. I know his cardio is going to be there. His volume leaves definitely something to be desired. But even if he lands 40, 50, 60 significant strikes over the course of 15 minutes, that'd be twice as much output as Misha. And you're right. He's not the biggest heavy.
If he gets through 7.5 minutes without getting finished, he's definitely going to take over. So
you would think. I would say for Misha, if dropping the 20 pounds, having a tough weight cut, not having fought into the second round in a very long time, all of that's going to take its toll on him. So I will take Jotko straight up, but I will keep an eye on that live betting market as well, because Misha could definitely put him in some sticky situations early. And as long as Jotko is able to last and survive, he'll be good. And last but not least, you mentioned Jotko's got a lot of decisions, but yeah, Misha just doesn't seem like he can take a punch, right? So it's just punchy kicky, right? Even Merab Dvalishvili last week, we're like, wow, all he wins is decisions. And you're like, dude, I'm feeling it. It'll be late, but I'm feeling him go out there and get that first stoppage. And it's not because Merab's a power puncher. It's because Marlon's damaged goods. Marlon can't take a punch. And what the result is, oh shit, even a non-puncher like Merab can swarm this guy. This could be the same situation. What's Jotko by knockout? Just out of curiosity.
Jotko by KO. It's only plus 200. Honestly,
I
man,
want
like
more out of that.
I'm considering it's still at plus money. The under 1.5 rounds in this fight. Now, Jotko is the problem in this puzzle, right? It's like Jotko's fights don't usually go to decision. He doesn't show like murderous power punching, but that kind of it probably covers it's plus 125 under 1.5 rounds. That covers most of Misha's winning conditions, I think. He's got to get it to the ground and either ground and pound or find a submission in the first 7.5 minutes. Otherwise, I don't have much faith in him being able to go deep into this fight, especially stripping off 20 pounds. It could be very, very dicey at the best for him. So maybe that's how I attack this one. Plus 125 under 1.5 rounds. And then that covers I'll feel like such a mope if I bet Misha Cirkunov and he takes one punch and crumbles. You know, we always talk about it moving down from, moving up from 185 to 205 has not historically been a problem for people. Moving from 205 down to 185, lots of problems. Because like Cirkunov was already pretty slow and plodding at 205. Now you bring him down to 185 pounds, where it's like everyone's super fast down there. It's like the perfect balance of power and speed in that division. It's a last little opportunity, last little shot, I guess, for him in his career. We'll see if it works out. I'm gonna circle the under 1.5 at plus money, but I'll check out the weigh-ins before I do anything with this one. Moving on down the card, we got Aspen Ladd taking on Macy Chaisson. This is a fight that was supposed to happen a while ago. We both liked Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd. Did you say by decision? I thought we were kind of saying that like Aspen Ladd by decision, or potentially like a late round 3 type of finish situation. Macy Chaisson had to pull out of their previous matchup, and the UFC did not find a new opponent. They wanted to make this fight. So has anything changed for you, or are you even stronger in your conviction that Aspen Ladd, your baby, gets the job done here?
Yeah, actually less strong in my conviction. It wasn't like she was the one that pulled out. It was actually Macy Chaisson that pulled out of the last meeting.
That's what I said.
3 months ago. Yeah, no. So it's not like I shouldn't be more concerned about it, but this is very much similar to the Misha Cirkunov fight. We got to see the weigh-ins, right? You look at what Aspen Ladd's able to do when she's at her best. And my baby, for a reason. She gets on top of you. You're not going anywhere. She's going to hit you with 100 significant strikes just in ground and pound. She keeps on her opponent. She doesn't move her head standing, but she comes at you, man. She's a willing participant, always looking fine, always in good shape, right? You look at where she's had her biggest troubles. So let's start with the Jermaine Durandamy fight. She shows up to the scales to make 135 pounds, and she looks dead. Her teeth are chattering, right? She's hunched over. She has no posture. She's zapped. It looks like she's about to pass out. Everyone speculates they're going to cancel the fight. They don't, and then she gets punched out in 16 seconds. Now, is that because Jermaine Durandamy is a legitimate kickboxer? Could be. Is that because Aspen Ladd, doesn't move her head and, it was right on a center line for her? Yeah, could be. I think it's a bad way. It was a bad way. So now you look at, she's supposed to fight Juliana Pena, right? Pena gets pulled out. She gets scheduled for Sarah McMahon. She blows out her ACL and her MCL. So now she's been sitting on the sideline. She effectively hasn't fought in almost 2 years. She's notorious for having a hell of a time making 135 pounds. And now she's got to try to make it for the first time in almost 2 years. She's coming off a major knee surgery, right? Like, none of that bodes super confident for a minus 250 play, right? But what it comes down to is Macy Chaisson's given up takedowns to Sarah Moras, who has no wrestling. She's given up 2 takedowns to Lena Landsberg, who is a Swedish Muay Thai standout. Mm-hmm. And she gave up 2 takedowns to Marion Renault, who's 44 years old. So Aspen Ladd probably going to take her down. And when she gets her down, that's when Aspen does her best work. I mean, her ground and pound is just ferocious. She never stops. She's got
screaming
good cardio.
And the noises that she makes, they make me uncomfortable, frankly.
Yeah, they make me a little uncomfortable too, but in a good way. But yeah, I mean, listen, this thing gets to the ground, no doubt about it. My problem is that you've got Macy Chaisson that's been full-time with Fortis MMA. She's used to fight on the Ultimate Fighter at 145 pounds, so she's actually got pretty good size for 135. She's been training. She's been fighting. Did she look good against Marion Renault? No. But the fact is she's been competing. She's been winning fights. She's been able to go back to the gym and make improvements. Aspen Ladd, meanwhile, her mom runs an OnlyFans account, right? She blows out her knee. She just goes on hikes with the dog every day. Just long hikes with the dog every single day. Long hikes with the dog. I'm not saying she's not a talented fighter, and she's my baby. I'm going to be backing her here. I just mean as a minus 250 favorite for a girl that hasn't fought in nearly 2 years, major knee surgery, lots of trouble making 135 pounds to begin with. Those are all red flags, man. I don't want to get blinded by the beauty and miss all that. So
that seems fair.
I am going to take Aspen Ladd. I am going to go with Aspen Ladd by decision, but not the most confident that I'd like to be.
That's all pretty fair. And I would say if you're going to bet the decision prop on this, it seems like the over 2.5 opened at like minus 225 at some books, and it's creeping down. So the little bit later in the week, you may be able to get like a little bit of a better price because people are liking themselves at least early in the week, the under, probably just for value purposes. So it's probably a better waiting game. You have to wait for the weigh-ins for this one anyway, because she could show up like she did against GDR, and you do not want to be holding a minus 250 Aspen Ladd ticket if she shows up like she did against GDR. So buyer beware. Moving on down, we've got Alexander the Great Hernandez taking on Mike Breeden. Hernandez was supposed to take on Leo Santos. Breeden comes in on short notice. Minus 525 Hernandez, plus 385 Breeden. Does Breeden have a shot here, or is this just a one-way beatdown?
Well, skill-wise, and at least what you've been able to see on paper, it appears like it should be a one-way beatdown, and that's what I'm going to bank on, is that Hernandez finally just gets in the win column and, taps into some of that potential he has. But the key here is that Hernandez does it to himself, man. He's got abysmal ring IQ. They've done him no favors, though. They've given him just a plethora of tricky fighters. Francisco Trinaldo is tricky. Drew Dober is tricky. Chris Grutzmacher is, how are you going to, not very many guys fight like that. Thiago Moises, like, shit, man, tough guy. And then he was going to take on Leo Santos. Like, what? Like, these are all guys where, like, they're dangerous in aspects of the game. Breeden coming in on short notice, it's like, there should be way better to him. He's also a guy that is very, very big on, like, confidence, right? If he's confident and he's winning the fight, that confidence just keeps growing. Hernandez is going to feel himself. If you face a little bit, if you give him a little bit of resistance, if you push him back, if you land a couple decent shots, his game falls apart. But you got a guy here in Alexander Hernandez who's very questionable in the ring IQ. And Mike Breeden, it's not like he's knowledgeable, is that he is one of James Krause's guys. So they're going to have the best game plan put forward to go out there and potentially expose Alexander Hernandez. But realistically with Breeden, I mean, I know he's won 2 fights since then, but I got to go back to that fight with Anthony Romero at Contender Series, where he gives up 2 takedowns and gets significantly outstruck. Anthony Romero, local Canadian guy, good wrestler, not great wrestler, good striker, not great striker. If you're going to be giving up the takedowns to him, if you're going to be giving up the pace to him, I know he did stick in the fight and have a good third round, but skill-wise, it just looks like Hernandez should be able to score the takedowns when he wants. He's going to be the faster guy. He's going to be a little more dynamic. It's that Breeden's tough, Breeden's durable, and Hernandez is going to have to win 2 of these rounds and then be careful. So last but not least, just the only slight worry is because Hernandez is the biggest favorite on the card. He's a minus 550.
Gasses out in round 3 because he hasn't really shown 3-round cardio at any point. He went to Denver. He's went and done all of these things, and it just doesn't seem to work for him.
Dude, 100%. And then so when I'm watching Mike Breeden, right, LFA 67 against this Chell Davis, right, he comes back in the 3rd round and he drops him with a body punch for a 3rd round stop. Then he takes on Brendan Jenkins. Brendan Jenkins just won his PFL debut and then actually debuted in the UFC and got mauled by Rong Zhu. My God. He knocks out Brendan Jenkins with a flying knee in the 3rd round, right? The Anthony Romero fight, he gets clowned on the first 2 rounds. And then in the 3rd round, he has his best round of the fight. So this guy's going to have good cardio, and this guy's going to be able to be dangerous in the 3rd round. And Hernandez is not good at any of those aspects. No. So all I'm saying is when you look at this lineup, you say, oh, geez, I got a minus 550 in Alexander Hernandez. Well, I guess I'm going to start my parlays with that, right? No, I don't think so. He's going to have to end up on them at some point. I do think he wins. But my ability to have faith in this kid is just gone. The sky was the limit for him. Knocks out Beneil Dariush. Mm-hmm. He beats Obey Mercier.
He looked like a massive star in the making, really, after that Dariush knockout. And then he showed up. He showed up against Donald Cerrone, and he was talking all the shit. All the shit. And that's the last time Donald Cerrone's really looked good. I guess Niko Price fight, he looked all right. But okay. No, but like he looked like legit good against Hernandez in that spot. He talked all of the shit. He's trying to be the newest Conor McGregor, and he did not back it up. And the streets don't forget. It's hard to trust him against anybody, really, especially when you're starting.
He's 2-2 since then.
Yeah.
He's 2-2 since then. Francisco Trinaldo's a gatekeeper, top 15 guy. Drew Dober's he's almost a top 10 guy, very talented. Chris Grutzmacher, you would have laughed at him before seeing his last fight against Rafa Garcia, where he's like, this guy's a problem for a lot of people, straight up. And then Thiago Moises is another fringe contender, who's ranked, right? Dropping from that to Mike Breeden, this should go his way, but he's in his own head, and that's a problem.
Are we gonna have to worry about me? I just said the S word, Cody.
Oh,
are you gonna have to beep that out? Or are we allowed to say that on
Fight Network
/fantasy?
last week the apple pie shitter, right? And they were like, "That's all good. That's all good." So as long as we don't drop F bomb, the big thing is the F bombs. No F bombs.
No F bombs.
When I talk about Mark Smith, I gotta subconsciously remember no dropping F bombs.
Week 3 of football is in the books, and now it's time to review the tape and get ready for Week 4 with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off another action-packed week, DraftKings is giving new customers $150 instantly when they bet $1 or more on any football game. Listen up, because you don't want to miss this. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any Week 4 game to receive $150 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP, dog or pass, to receive $150 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code DOP this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
All right, moving on down. We got Joe Solecki taking on Jared Gooden, minus 130 Solecki. Jared Gordon. Big difference.
Jared Gooden, yeah. I'd be interested in Jared Gooden in this spot.
He'd have a significant size advantage for sure.
Yeah,
this is a really interesting fight with Jared Gordon. Minus 130, plus 110. Jared Gordon's got to have the advantage on the feet, right? But, like, how big is... The problem with Gordon is that he's always been at his best when he's controlling the grappling range. If he can take you down, get on top. The guy's cardio is quite great, to be perfectly honest. The chin, very, very questionable. I don't know if I've seen enough from Solecki to worry me in that respect. The motor that Jared Gordon brings to each and every one of his fights when he doesn't get knocked out is pretty impressive. The grappling exchanges here is what's really troubling me. Is Solecki a considerably better grappler than Gordon? Because if he's not, I think it's Gordon, and I think it's Gordon all day. I think Gordon does have the better stand-up of the two here. What's your take here? I'm a little puzzled by this one.
Yeah, I'm almost feeling a dogger pass situation as well. Jared Gordon came to the UFC, and I was his biggest backer, man. This guy's got cardio for days. He was a brown belt under John Danaher, right? So, I mean, that's a black belt in most people's academies. And he had the reputation. He had died like 2 years before his UFC debut from a drug overdose. So that was like the knock on him. He's got this troubled history, but he was one of these Matt Brown types, one of these Court McGee types, one of these Ian McCall types. So it's like they reinvented themselves after a brush with death. And now almost seemingly have infinite cardio as a result. He's the same way, man. He just puts pressure on you. His first 2 wins in the UFC is just all pressure. It's great stuff. And then is when he runs into some serious trouble. So he moves up, or say he loses to Carlos Diego Ferreira, but he's a stud, knocked out. Joaquim Silva fight, if you watch it, the first round, Jared Gordon looks like $1 million. The second round, the damage starts to pile up. And the third round, he gets knocked out. And then he loses to Charles Oliveira, who, by the way, is the current lightweight champion of the UFC. So I'm going to give him a pass in that all 3 of those guys are Brazilian, and those guys are all bangers, right? My issue is that he started to look remarkably slow. He just looks slow. The Dan Moret fight, he looked off. The Chris Fishgold fight, he wins, but he looks off. And I start telling myself, you know what, Cody? You can't be backing this guy anymore. He's way too slow. He's chinny. He's not the same guy as he used to be. His cardio doesn't even really seem to be as good as it used to be. Yeah. He's in his mid-30s, but when you talk about his history of drug abuse, like it's possible that the game's catching up with him. And the kid is, well, I shouldn't say kid, he's older than I am, but Gordon picks up his stuff and says, you know what? I recognize all the same things everybody else recognized. I laughed at him publicly for the Chris Fishgold fight where I was like, this guy's the slowest fighter I've ever seen. And he on his own Twitter tweets out, he's like, whoa, rewatching that fight from last night, I'm slow. What the hell happened? I'm going to address this. And he does. And he goes to Sanford MMA. And Sanford MMA is a quick, explosive gym. You got young athletes there. A lot of these guys are strikers, but a lot of it's just a quick, explosive energy. Jared Gordon's more of a grinder. But being in that room with them, he definitely found some of that speed back. And I thought he looked incredibly improved versus Danny Chavez, where he marched him down the entire time. He beat him to the punch the entire time. His chin looked improved. His takedowns looked improved. His ground game was on point. He looked like a much, much, much better fighter. And so what I'm banking on in this spot is much of the same. He's 33 years old, but hopefully he's not over the hill quite yet. Sanford's going to have him well and prepared. I believe he's a black belt now. His wrestling is going to be slightly, if not kind of on par with Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki might have a slightly more refined jiu-jitsu game, but the striking should be a Gordon. The pressure should be Gordon. The experience should be Gordon. It should be all Gordon. Solecki, meanwhile, comes in with a 3-0 record in the UFC, and he's been looking good. But Matt Wyman, okay, so they gave you a free win just to get your feet wet in the UFC. Fair. Matt Wyman, you shouldn't have even been in there. And it's a decision, by the way. The Austin Hubbard fight, okay, you slinked onto Hubbard's back and you choked him out, which, to be honest, I mean, Hubbard just hasn't been really looking good in the UFC, especially not against grapplers. It's the Jim Miller fight that's more concerning to me, because I had a lot of money on Joe Solecki, and he loses the first round to Jim Miller, man. Yeah. I mean, his striking was off, right? He shot the takedown on Miller, and Miller just brick-walled him and got on top, and then spent the rest of the first round on top of him.
Jim Miller
round, Miller gasses. He's got Lyme disease.
Is a guy
so experienced
that I used to bet round one props, like against like Roosevelt Roberts. I bet because Jim Miller is kind of he's got some heat for a round, and that's about it. He falls off a cliff.
Dude, you're absolutely right. He's a one-round guy. The Lyme disease, who knows if it's affecting him? You know, he's definitely getting to an advanced age for a prize fighter, and he's got so much experience under his belt that it's understandable that he's not going to be able to keep going to those later rounds. So Jim Miller is who he is, but he wins the first round against Solecki. And to me, if you're going to go out there against Jared Gordon, he's going to be a better striker than Jim Miller. He's, at this point, probably a better wrestler than Jim Miller, only because Miller's slowed down, just kind of shot to bits. Yeah. And cardio, dude, not even comparable. No. Jim Miller's a one-round guy. Jared Gordon looks like he could be a 5-round guy, as long as you don't knock him out in between those rounds, right? This is a live dog situation, I think, and I'm going to treat it like that. So Jared Gordon will be underdog number. Do I only got 2 dogs at this point? Regardless, Jared Gordon is dog number 2. We're going with Daukaus is dog number 1. Jared Gordon's dog number 2.
Yeah. All right. After we get off the show, I'm going to throw some money on Jared Gordon because sounds like we're on the same page here.
JG.
All right, moving on down the card, we got Casey O'Neill taking on Antonina Shevchenko, -220 O'Neill, +180 Shevchenko. I mean, on the regional tape, there was some questions that I had about Casey O'Neill. She's costing me some money because I was like, I don't know. I was kind of reading into it a bit, but the cardio looks tremendous from her. The ability to get the fight to the mat is awesome. The Laura Procopio fight was a real eye-opener for me. Shayna Dobson, I was just being a total fish, betting money on Shayna Dobson. I own that one. The Laura Procopio one, I was pretty impressed by what she was able to do. Obviously, she's young. She's getting a lot better. And how do you beat bad Shevchenko? You take her down. You control her. And I think, 23 years old, the sky's the limit, keeps getting better. And Shevchenko's 36. I think the best of her days are behind her. She is not her sister. Losing by triangle armbar to Andrea Lee. Roxanne Modafferi able to beat her in the grappling range. And that was only 2 years ago. I know it's amazing. What do you think happens when Valentina and Antonina are like sparring? Like, Valentina must just like not try because she doesn't want to kill her sister. Casey O'Neill is the pick, clearly. I think her game plan, her style is just the kryptonite to everything that Shevchenko really wants to do in there. She probably wins inside the distance, plus 140. I wish I had like a hot take on either the submission or the TKO, but I could kind of see both playing out kind of equally. Yeah, I think Shevchenko rolls here. It may take a couple rounds, but I think she probably gets her out of there. What about you?
You mean O'Neill? But yeah, and I would largely agree with that. I think Casey O'Neill should be able to go out there and roll here. There's a couple red flags here and there. I mean, I suppose every fight kind of does have them, but in Casey O'Neill's case, she's only 23 years old, so that is going to be a problem still moving forward. Is that she is still young? She's not invincible, right? She's going to run into some tough spots, but the fight with Laura Procopio, she got handled in the first round. The takedown was nowhere in sight. The striking is not at an advanced level yet. And all of a sudden it's like, oh no, she's in for a rough night here. The second round, something happens to Procopio. Like, she totally shuts down. Maybe she's gassed. I speculated it might have been like female cramps. I don't want to talk about that ever again. Something happens to her. Like she completely shuts off. And so weird, in fact, that Laura Procopio was coming off a win over Molly McCann and a split decision loss to Karol Rosa, who's a stud. And they cut her. They cut her after the Casey O'Neill fight, which doesn't make any sense, right? She had done nothing to the organization and had put on some entertaining fights and, in fact, won the first round, released from the promotion. So there was something going on there, which I don't love. And to be honest with you, Casey O'Neill handedly loses the first round before rallying over a zombie in the second and third and picking up the victory. So it's not a flawless win. Then they give her the microphone post-fight, and they're like, oh, what's next for you? You're a rising star in this division. She's like, I just want to go back to the gym. It's so difficult to work on new things and improve when you're just going camp to camp. I just want to take some time off. And yet they've booked her, less than 4 months later against Antonina Shevchenko. So they're looking to just keep pushing her. They're giving her a named opponent, sister of the champion. She's still only 23. She's undefeated. She's asked publicly for time off. And instead it's like, no, the grind continues, get back in there. So could be a problem. Now her striking is getting better. She's known for her jiu-jitsu and her grappling, obviously, but her father was an Australian kickboxing champion. And you can tell that her technique is getting better. And it's probably something that she's been working at sporadically throughout her entire life. So it is getting better. It's just not good enough to stand and strike with Antonina Shevchenko. She needs to get the fight to the ground. And if she gets to the fight to the ground, it should be all Casey O'Neill all day. And Antonina Shevchenko almost turned the corner, right? She loses to Caitlin Chikagian where she gets dominated in the grappling, bad sign. And then she beats Ariana Lipski with a little bit of grappling. I was like, oh no, she's improved. When Andrea Lee takes you down 3 times and ends up triangling you, you got a serious problem on your hands. Casey O'Neill's a better wrestler, better grappler than Lee. It seemed like in her last fight, cardio is not an issue. She can drop a first round. She can keep coming. And when you've got 50% takedown defense and you're taking on a superior grappler, chances are this fight is going to hit the ground at some point. I do give striking advantage to Shevchenko, but this is not likely to be a striking match for very often. So I'm going to agree with you. I got Casey O'Neill. You do get the sense that Casey O'Neill could definitely finish this thing inside the distance, likely with a submission.
Next up, we got Karol Rosa taking on Bethe Correia. Minus 490 Rosa, plus 360 Correia. Kind of surprised that that Bethe is still kicking. Still kicking at this point. The track record isn't impressive. Generally, except when, she took on Ronda Rousey way back when, and I guess a round 3 losses to Holly Holm and Irina Aldana. So people who are at the top of the division, she's always been very, very durable. I don't know how you can really bet her at this point. I think when I made the boards for this on like Monday, and I saw Karol Rosa was like minus 320 or minus 350-ish. Now it's already up to minus 490. So the money is piling in. I looked across the markets. I'm like, how can we fade Bethe here? Maybe the durability holds up. It usually does. Rosa doesn't seem like a potent finisher. And I see most books, they kind of both bid it around like minus 120, minus 138. I see at one place that still hasn't moved it. And it's moving across the board. Most people are kind of moving up to like minus 170, minus 190 even for Rosa by decision. So at these prices, I think Rosa wins. I think Rosa wins by decision. I don't bet. Really, the only thing that she's got going for her, the way that she can probably win fights, is if she has like a strength advantage, which I don't really know if she has in this spot. Or if her opponent has like severe cardio issues and Bethe is able to like survive the early onslaught and then take over late. And those fights are always the ugliest. But, that's exactly what she did against Sijara Eubanks. Karol Rosa by decision. I just don't like the minus 190 that they're hanging out there. What's your take here?
Yeah, Karol Rosa pick of the week for sure. I've always been a Karol Rosa. Yeah, well, ever since she came to the UFC, I mean, well, you could have got it at 350 if you got on it earlier. But
are you on it earlier?
But it's parlay material, right?
Yeah.
Because what are you supposed to bet her straight up at 350? Like, what are you talking about, right? So you got to add her with your next most confident play. But Karol Rosa has shown us. See, there's a difference between her and Alexander Hernandez, right? They're both in that 5-to-1 price range. Only you've got one girl in Procopio, one girl who's She's 26 years old, Karol Rosa. She's 3-0 in the UFC. She's landing a tremendous amount of volume, and she's also got a ground game. She's a BJJ black belt. She looks like she's got cast iron chin and durability and cardio. There's all stuff that you like out of that. And her opponent, I thought Bethe retired. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure why
I thought she retired
that.
too. And we're gonna have another person at the end of this card that I also thought was like completely retired at this point.
She's 38 years old. She hasn't looked good in a while. Yeah, that she's got the one win over Eubanks in the mix, but again, I mean, it's all about situation. Situation when Eubanks had a bad weight cut and was shutting down, but like Bethe just hasn't been herself in a long time. And you could actually make the argument that she was never a top contender to begin with. It's just Ronda Rousey needed an opponent. They went to Brazil. Rousey went into Bethe's own backyard just to make this somewhat appealing and punched her out. Didn't submit her. Punched her out in like a minute. So Bethe has never really been elite as far as I'm concerned. And the losses since then, since losing to Ronda Rousey, she's 2-4 with a draw. That draw, by the way, she started off really good and then gave up a 10-8 third round because she gassed out. So I got to admit, Karol Rosa has her way every way she wants it. The 171 significant strikes landing against Laura Procopio, that's just unconscious. Knocked her down too. Vanessa Mello, she showed it wasn't a fluke, landed 120. But that last fight against Jocelyn Edwards, that one was, to me, the keys. Like, you don't really want to strike with Jocelyn Edwards for a prolonged period of time. She is a dangerous striker. So mixing some of that wrestling, and she does. She's a good grappler as well. She's well-rounded, got the cardio, got the chin. You know, she'll run into her match eventually, but I got Karol Rosa. Both girls are 5'5", but Karol Rosa's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and she'll use it effectively enough. So Karol Rosa, and at this point, to improve it, like you're saying, you got to chase a bit of a prop on it. I would go with the Rosa by decision as well.
Devonte Smith takes on Jamie Mullarkey, -150 Smith, +130 Mullarkey. Who you got here?
So I could be talked into the dog again here. Like, I haven't outright pulled the trigger. I think Devonte Smith is extremely talented. I don't really necessarily want to fade him, but I think the opportunity would be there for the fade. I say that because, again, he seems to be a one-round guy. Like, he walks in there and he just blows out his opponents in the first round. Joseph Lowry with the knockout, Julian Erosa with the first-round knockout, Doug Young-Ma with the first-round knockout. And then the Kama Worthy fight. I know they were friends pre-existing, and he didn't really let his hands go against Worthy. I do believe that's because he had known him. They were kind of buddy-buddy. So he allowed Kama Worthy to get off before he did. Mm-hmm. And when Worthy landed on him, that's when you realize, like, Devonte Smith, not the most durable guy going. The fight with Justin James, he showed a vastly improved grappling game, but he wasn't really looking to strike with Justin James. He was looking to neutralize him, take him down, and now grapple him. Mullarkey, meanwhile, he seems durable, dude. I mean, him and Brad Riddell went toe-to-toe. He took some crazy damage in that fight. The Faraz Zaim fight, he just grinded on him over and over and over again. And then he gets his own fight with Kama Worthy, and he punches him out in 46 seconds, right? Yep. So what you see with Jamie Mullarkey is physically the guy's in great shape. He's one of these guys that's going to move forward. He's going to let his hands go. They're more of clubbing shots, but he's going to club you and he's going to try to take you down. And he's going to keep grinding. He does seemingly have 15-minute cardio, can fight 3 rounds, has that imposing frame. The 5 takedowns against Zaim, the 3 takedowns against Brad Riddell, didn't even need them against Kama Worthy. You just get the sense that this guy's in-your-face, let's scrap type fighter. He's been training with Alexander Volkanovski and all of the greats, which I know because Australia, New Zealand, and COVID and all that, like, part of me, I'm told, is like, oh, man, they're not going to look all that good. Then you see them in the cage. It's like, well, they look pretty good to me. I don't know. Dan Hooker looked phenomenal. Alexander Volkanovski looked phenomenal. I'm led to believe these guys haven't been able to train. Like, If Jamie Mullarkey comes out here and is in good shape, he's going to make this a greasy fight for Devonte Smith. And yes, Devonte Smith looks excellent when he's having his way. And look at the opponents he's beaten so far in the UFC. They're guys that you can have your way with. If Mullarkey gives him some resistance, I think he should be a live underdog. I do want to see the scales. But again, this is a 13-fight card. We're going with 2 publicly black underdogs. Jamie Mullarkey, I think I'm going to throw him on to be the third one.
That all makes sense to me. Yeah, it's kind of like round 1 or bust for Devonte Smith. Moving on down, we've got Douglas Da Silva de Andrade, who I like to refer to as like Walmart Lineker, taking on Gaetano Pirello, -255 Andrade, +205 Pirello. Who you got here?
Yeah, you got Jessica Andrade is female John Lineker, and now you got off-brand John Lineker, which is Douglas D. Andrade. He debuted in the UFC. I'll never forget it. He was 21-0. Sorry, 22-0. It was like, where did this guy come from? But yeah, so he debuts in 2014, right? That's 7 years ago. In the 7 years he's been in the UFC, he's fought 8 times. And that's his issue. He's a one and done guy. He fights once a year. They usually don't do him a ton of favors. But yeah, like Zuberto Hugov's a top 15 guy. He loses. Cody Gibson's actually a stud. He wins. Briones, he is what he is. But then his next loss, Rob Font, who again is another top 5 guy. Then he loses to Peter Yan, who's currently the champion at 135 pounds. And then he loses his last time out against Lerone Murphy, who's a contender at 145 pounds. So his losses are actually all to world-class competition. He shows wins over Renan Barão and Marlon Vera. So, like, he's not a fish out of water. It's just he's never been able to put consistency together, right? He picks up a big win, and he picks up a big loss. He loses to Rob Font. He beats Marlon Vera, and then he loses to Peter Yan. Then he beats Renan Barão, and then he loses to Lerone Murphy. He's due for a win, and I do think that he'll come out here and get said victory. He's one of these guys that's very difficult to push back. I mean, you mentioned the fact, off-brand John Lineker for a reason, but he's stay in your face aggressive. Durability doesn't really seem to be that big of an issue for him, so he's able to stay in your pace. And listen, he went 2 full rounds with Peter Yan. He went the distance with Lerone Murphy. He went the distance with Renan Barão. He went the distance with Marlon Vera. Like, he's one of those guys that can keep coming at you, make it an interesting enough fight. With Gaetano Pirello, meanwhile, he's 100% a striker himself. And all of his wins on the regional scene have been either him knocking guys out or him getting taken down and getting exposed. This will be a fight where he'll have the striking battle that he desires. It's just I got to go with big show experience here. And Douglas Andrade has fought multiple guys that are ranked, that are top-level mixed martial artists. With Gaetano Pirello, he's got seemingly better striking accuracy, seemingly a little bit straighter with his technique, but he hasn't had to go these deep rounds. A lot of his fights end in the first round. In the Ricky Simone case, he threw one knee up the middle, and that was it. He accepted all the positions he was in. He got tired. He got beat on. It's a tough fight. I'm going to give him that. But against Andrade, I think he's going to come out with a fast start, maybe wins the first round. But when Andrade stays in his face and keeps putting that pressure on him, this guy's going to start to slow a little bit. And when he starts to slow a little bit, I would think that's when Andrade takes over. But to be honest with you, dude, this is like more of a 50-50 fight, striker versus striker. Both guys do have red flags in their game. It's not big on the confidence level. But if you want to hit a PRP, you end up with guys like this at the bottom of the ticket. And so which side are we going to go with? I'm going to go with Douglas Andrade on the basis of the experience.
Yeah, it's too bad that Douglas Silva de Andrade doesn't have much of a grappling game. I mean, in fairness, he's been taking on some really, really solid opponents most of the way through he's been around for 7 years, but barely has any fights. But Lerone Murphy, future stud. Thoughts and prayers to Amir Khani's career. He just got late notice replacement Lerone Murphy. That's not what you want when you're coming off of 2 straight losses. Renan Barão, obviously that was the shell of Renan Barão. That's why he got the win. Marlon Vera, Peter Yan, Rob Font, like Zubaira Tuhugov was his UFC debut. There has not been any easy matchups for him. He's been able to secure a few a takedown here and there in some fights. Hopefully, maybe that's part of his game plan going into this one. That would make me a little bit more comfortable. But with this guy, it's like we haven't seen him do it so many times that it's tough to lay the minus 255 when you haven't seen him really do it in quite a long time. So, and that's not exactly his game. Like, he's not just going to go out there and just spam takedowns. That's what you would want to see in this fight, because I think he can completely expose Pirello, who looked pretty helpless as Ricky Simon was taking him down. Moving on down, we've got Stephanie Egger taking on Shanna Young. Minus 130 Egger, plus 110 Young. You got a hot take here?
No, I don't. I don't actually have a hot take at all. Yeah. So honestly, Shayna Young is prime for the fade right here. Prime for the fade. Unfortunately, the prospect is fading her with Stephanie. Yeah, man. Listen, Egger, judo black belt, competed internationally in judo, has good judo. I believe she's also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, and she competed at the 2009 ADCCs against Gabby Garcia. So it's like, who actually just lost on the weekend. All the same, it's like she's a big gal. She's competed against big gals. She's got the judo. She's got the grappling. But her striking is abysmal, like just non-existent. She's going to get chewed up. I actually liked how she looked against King Rina Miura in Ryzen 17. She gets the takedown. She secures the victory. And then she makes her debut against Tracy Cortez. Now, Tracy Cortez wrestled collegiately. Both of her brothers wrestled collegiately. Actually, she has 3 brothers. One of them passed away, but they were all wrestlers. And she is fighting MMA to honor her late brother, who was a mixed martial artist, who actually beat Drew Fickett when he was like 2-0. So her brother could have been a stud. Tracy Cortez is a problem for a lot of the girls in the division. She can wrestle. She's got good cardio. She's seemingly on her way to developing and being a star in this division. It's a tough fight for Stephanie Egger. So Egger looks awful in that spot. But again, part of me does want to give her the pass in that, she's against lesser competition, lesser wrestlers, lesser grapplers. If she gets the fight to the ground, she's a big gal, good top pressure. She could fight a Roxanne Modafferi type game plan. Not a very good striker, but good enough judo to get this thing to the ground. And if she was to end up on top, that's where she would most definitely do her best work. Shayna Young, meanwhile, it hasn't been great. She fought on Contender Series against Sarah Alpar. She looked terrible. Got submitted in the first round. She got it in Invicta. She loses to Miranda Maverick. Submitted in the first round against Miranda Maverick. And then this Macy Chaisson fight. She jumps up on short notice to take the fight with Macy Chaisson. She's a gigantic underdog. She shows a little bit of heart and spirit, but ultimately comes up on the losing end of things. She has now not fought in 19 months, and she just had a baby. Like 4 months ago. Right. So she's been off because she's had child. Apparently she only gave birth 3-4 months ago. And by all accounts, she's not really training. Hasn't really been training. Now, I can't divulge my inside source because he's asked not to be divulged, but apparently she's not training, right? And the level that she is training at would not be considered a UFC style camp in the slightest bit. So those are the red flags on Shayna Young, which is why we want to fade her. It's Stephanie Egger, man. Like, I'm so conflicted on that. Like, Shayna Young just keeps the fight standing. Doesn't matter who she's been training with. Doesn't matter if she just gave birth.
Well, she doesn't looking terrible. I'm looking at her Instagram right now. I'm creeping around, and like she does have abs, so she's back in physical shape. Fighting shape and physical shape are 2 different things, though. But that's enough red flag that I would not be betting. If you have these inside sources that can't be divulged.
Well, I will admit, and this guy, I don't want to give anybody the wrong idea. I know there's people betting Shayna Young anyhow, and she's like one of the favored picks this week. She's a slight underdog, is she not?
Yeah, plus 110.
Yeah, she's plus 110. I know there's people taking the dog shot. I know there's people that have tape studied it and said, you know what, she's got the goods. And I don't want to misdirect anybody by being like, I got an inside source and it's a mega lock. It's just, my guy's been good to me. He brings up a lot of great points. And he never once said Stephanie Egger is going to win. Right? He said these are the massive problems with
buyer beware 100%. on the Young side.
And then the way little Cody's brain works is shit. Sarah Alpar took her down twice on Contender Series, took her back and choked her out. And Macy Chaisson took her down 3 times, which Macy Chaisson is not really known for her wrestling. No. Egger just needs to trip her to the ground, get on top. And who knows, man, in the 3rd round, she could be tired. Even kid aside, even not training aside, being off for 2 years, it's all a problem. It's all a problem. When you mix it all together, it's like pass. You probably want to hit a pass, right? Mm-hmm. And whereas I normally say this is a dog or a pass, I'm actually got slight favorite or pass. But this will likely be the absolute last pick on the PRP this week because I could not tell you.
That seems fair enough to me. And finally, the other person that I thought retired is in this next match. We've got Alejandro Perez, minus 255, taking on Johnny Eduardo, who can be had for plus 205. You know what don't usually hold the test of time? 41-year-old bantamweights. That doesn't work out very much. And Johnny Eduardo, I mean, the writing was on the wall, 2-3 years ago. The guy basically can't really... He's got good striking. He's a former... striking coach at Nova União. And yeah, so like I remember one time in Toronto was like partying during the day and like following on my phone. And I think I had Eddie Wineland on a whole bunch and he blew that shit up, ruined, like I was in such a bad mood the rest of that day because of Johnny Eduardo. But I mean, I think I've made the money back against him over the years as well, because it's pretty once you know a little bit more like totals. It was just bet the bantamweights. It took a while for some of these books to like react. It's just bet the under in his fights because He's very, very dangerous. At least he was back in 2018. He's very, very dangerous early on in the fight. He's got very, very slick, good striking. He's quick, at least early. Durability isn't great. Grappling is a complete joke. I can't believe that he's back. I can't believe. I thought, I just kind of thought that, with the Bethe Correia, there was actually like, internet posts saying like, oh, she's actually retired from MMA. I do remember seeing that. I just assumed that like, maybe one like Brazilian outlet had posted, hey, Johnny Eduardo not coming back, because it's been 3 years since he took on Nathaniel Wood, and he's been gone ever since. So, yeah, it's got to be Alejandro Perez in this spot, right? Like, I know it's minus 255. Do we like betting him at that price? Not necessarily, but 41-year-old bantamweight who barely can get out of a round, not a great look.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Well, I remember the Eddie Wineland fight, but you and I had a hell of a sweat the last time Johnny Eduardo fought. We were both all over Nathaniel Wood, and Johnny Eduardo is one hell of a striker, dude. He's battering this kid. I got a really bad sense that I done effed up, because I'm like, why would I take Nathan? And Johnny Eduardo shoots headfirst into a Darce choke.
Yeah.
Shoots. The Nova União kickboxing coach, the man credited for helping Jose Aldo change his game, this guy is shooting into a grappler in a fight he's otherwise dominating. And I remember, we both high-fived with Cash, but then immediately we're talking about, like, he must have an under 1.5 or a Nathaniel Wood by submission prop ticket, because it's like, why would anybody do that? And then he doesn't fight for 3 years. So very understandable that everybody and their mother would believe that he's probably walked away from the sport. But yeah, he resurfaced in 2020. He was supposed to take on Thomas Almeida. Or sorry, no, that's Alejandro Perez. Yeah, he was supposed to take on Anthony Burchak 7 months ago, and he pulls out. He's 41. I wouldn't imagine his body's in pristine condition anymore. He's got 40 professional fights, so even though he's had time off, his body still definitely got that damage. And Nova União is a gym traditionally. They went way too hard. And all the fighters that stayed at Nova União got shot to bits. Jose Aldo, it looked like he was worn out and, kind of at the tail end of his career. Renan Barão, just the damage that man took was just far too much to come back from. And Claudia Gadelha, she took a lot of damage in rounds in that gym. Hakran Diaz, he never came back. That gym breaks you because they're training like it's Miletich fighting system 1997. You can't train like that. You can't go balls to the walls in the gym anymore. And I feel like Eduardo's probably a bit damaged goods himself. But if you gave me Johnny Eduardo in 2018 or 2017 or anything like that, I think he probably knocks out Alejandro Perez. It's 41-year-old version of him I can't quite get behind. Perez has got chin issues. I honestly do believe Perez doesn't take the greatest punch anymore. When you look at his career, he got dropped by Patrick Williams, but he got caught with a guillotine choke. So people remember it as a submission loss. But, I mean, he got knocked down hard by Pat Williams. DeAndre Suguntath, he wins a split decision. So people forget he got dropped 3 times. 3 knockdowns against Andre Suguntath. And then his last fight against Song Yadong, he got 1 punch in the first round, man. So I don't think his durability is really all that good. I know I always say, I tout Mexican warriors, man, those chins, you can't break them. In his case, I think you can chin check him. And if he stands in front of Johnny Eduardo, at the very least, Johnny Eduardo is going to swing on him for a round. And he could potentially connect with something. So it's like, well, you know what? If I was fighting Johnny Eduardo, I would take him down. Yeah, fair. Only Alejandro Perez shows 20% takedown accuracy in the UFC. He's not a wrestler. He's never been a wrestler. He's shown no real ability to get the thing to the ground. He's a banger. He stands right in front of you and he tries to weasel you out. I know that's Dan Levy's term. He's a weasel, right? Like he just greases you on these close fights. They're usually close. They usually kind of go the distance and he's able to grease you out on them. But more often than not, dude, I don't really like what I'm seeing out of him lately. He's got wins, but he's got wins over guys that are no longer factors. Not that Johnny Eduardo is a factor. And then when he takes that little step up, he kind of looks a little bit lost. So again, I will go with Eduardo. I can't see myself betting a 41-year-old bantamweight who hasn't fought in 3 years and may have non-existent ring IQ. And also, if I'm Johnny Eduardo and I haven't fought 3.5 years, I'm 41 years old, this is my last chance to get a payday, right? So what would you do? Would you go swing on him and go for fight of the night? Would you chase the bonus? Or would you just bet Alejandro Perez inside the distance? Yeah, I don't know, man. I think he bet against himself in that Woods fight. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to double down once on the way out here. So, yeah, I want no part of Johnny Eduardo. I really don't. But Perez is not exactly the safest guy considering.
Yeah. I mean, Perez inside the distance. I mean, the under, I think this is under gang territory. It's minus 140 here. There's other prices out there as well. I don't see what it is on DraftKings Sportsbook, but I see like plus 175s, plus 163 on Perez's inside the distance. I think that's the way to approach this one. The minus 255 for a guy who we're starting to question his chin as well. Maybe the under is just the best way to play this one. So I'm going to add that one to my card. I've also got, while you were doing the Douglas Da Silva de Andrade versus Pirello fight, I made a bet, a medium-sized bet, plus 100, Rosa / price parlay. And after we get off the show here, I'm going to add get Jared Gordon at plus money as well. We're just about out of time, Cody. You know the drill, him with the PRP.
Thank God you and Pogi Rob have made that tradition because, yeah, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't even give up PRPs at the end of the show. Thiago Santos, I think he's going to get a late round knockout. We're going to go Kyle Daukaus by decision. Niko Price, that's dog number 1. Niko Price by decision. Krzysztof, Jotko. I mean, I'd hate to say by decision, but we're just going to go Jotko. Aspen Ladd decision. Alexander Hernandez inside the distance. Jared Gordon by decision, dog number 2. Casey O'Neill inside the distance by submission. Karol Rosa by decision. Jamie Mullarkey is going to be our dog number 3. I could see him getting it done by knockout sometime in the second. We're going to go with Douglas Andrade. Man, 255. Just that's kind of the biggest concern there. We will take him though. And we're going to go with Stephanie Egger, that one by decision. And we're going to go with Alejandro Perez. Yeah. There's a couple red flags you got in there. You got 13 fights to work with. You got a full Bellator card on the Friday as well. So even though we just hit a PRP, don't have the expectation we're just going to crush these things all the time. No. But I think you'd be better suited leaving off some of these, picks and either just keeping it tight, keeping it confined, and then mixing in a couple Bellator picks that you might like as well. But we only had 2 underdogs last week, and then that's all that hit, right? So this one we got 3. And hopefully that's all that hits. So we get the right ones and we can do the damn thing all over again. But I got to get out of here. So Paul, I appreciate it as always. Thanks for having me on. And hopefully we're on the right side of things.
Yeah, that's the last thing I'll really say is just because you won a whole bunch of money last week, the classic mistake that novices will make is that they get a little bit too aggressive the next week. You start putting way more on bets than you did the week before. This is a grind every single week, You're just trying to slowly build up your bankroll. And then certain weeks you go absolutely ham and, it's good. It's safe. It's fine to do a small amount more than your standard size bet because you have more money in the tank at this point. You can up your unit size, but, not every single night is going to be like last Saturday. So that's my little parting wisdom. But that is it for us this week. Thank you to Cody for sharing his wisdom with us as always. For Cody and producer Matt, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh.